Can't find the intro. Ah.
Punch it!
Peak intro.
Peak.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode number 98 of Hyperspace Hype. We're almost there. Will we get there?
We're gonna make episode 100 at Ahsoka episode 6 if we stick to our guns. I don't know.
Yeah.
That should be exciting.
Episode 100 is like, oh, we did. Oops, episodes 7 through 9.
I know. Right? It's like we just stopped doing reviews and it's like, oh, we still haven't gotten to 100 yet. Yeah, episode 5 is going to be our mid-season finale. Played in some theaters, actually, which is fun. You know, living in the Midwest, that never comes to anywhere close to where I live. Unless, like, Chicago. It's like Chicago to LA theaters. It's like, come on. I get it, California.
Boring choices.
Right? I mean, come to Ohio, please. But whatever.
Come to Florida, but not Orlando.
I mean, I mean, if it was actually, I would say if it's anywhere in like my vicinity, I would drive to it. But Chicago's like a 5-hour drive. I'm not driving down there for like a 40-minute episode of Ahsoka or whatever.
It's wild to think. You drove to Celebration 2019?
That was great. That was fantastic. Yeah, just a good 5-hour drive to Celebration, and then instead of usual like 10-hour plane ride, or I don't know how long LA was. Yeah.
Cut to Carson's flight getting snowed in, so he's like, I guess I'll go Monday.
Yikes. But then Japan, 2025, I'll be there, baby. Believe it.
I'll be waving.
I hope I can. I mean, yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal. I'm already saving up. I already got the moolah to, if it was next year, I'd be going. I would just say that.
Oh, I thought you were like, I could go right now.
I'll go right now. Bring it.
One way.
We're doing it now. But wow, Nathan, you know, we're here. It's Ahsoka time. And
we're here. It's now. It's wow.
It's wow.
And how.
What was that from?
Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, true.
Ted Raimi legend.
Oh, God. Man, okay. Where do we begin? We begin from the beginning.
The beginning.
But overall, I loved this episode. That was very fun. Halfway through, I was like, okay, it's solid. You know, the usual like lighting technical issues are a little bit there at the beginning when they're in like the foresty areas. I'm like, okay, not the best, but like it starts cooking because last week I was like, I'm looking for some, you know, my big thing, character dynamics. I'm looking for some back and forth. I want some like struggles, some interpersonal struggles. And I think we're starting to cook with that this episode. My biggest highlights were, besides the duels are fantastic, like especially Baylan and Ahsoka, but also like Shin and Sabine. Can we talk about that? But also, you know, Marek was there and then he left. Awesome. Thank you. Didn't care. I'm
so relieved.
So me too. Nah, nobody I talked to cared about it. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. But anyways, but then who is he actually? I don't care. It doesn't matter. Anyways,
I was watching a thing.
Yeah.
And somebody was like, what if Merrick isn't anybody? What if they kill him right now? And the other dude was like, nah, they wouldn't hype up fans like that. And I'm like, who's hyped up? Who are you talking to? They didn't say shit. They gave him a name, but he's a glove shit. It's not.
People act like putting. Oh, he's not glove shittery, but like.
No, but like I mean.
Yeah, he's close to it.
Yeah.
But by putting a mask on somebody, instantly that's like hyping up a character. By putting on a mask. Oh, they're hyping him up. They're not showing us who he is. They're hyping him up. No, they're not. Stop it.
Have you seen the Stormtroopers?
Right. But the other best parts, like towards like it got better and better as the episode went on. And the Baylan stuff, Baylan and Ahsoka, Baylan and Sabine, his interactions, Ray Stevens' gravitas on screen is just fantastic. Rest in peace, man. But I was saying earlier in the episode 1 and 2 review, I was like, Balin is an interesting character, giving very little with his dialogue. It is, I think, still here. We're getting very little of his dialogue, or at least a lot of his like who the character is. Hopefully, that's cooking. Hopefully, he's just not a guy who prophesizes about the future and then he just dies. I don't think that's where we're going, given where we got in episode 4. But hopefully, we get to flesh him out a little bit more. But with what we were given with his interaction with Sabine and Ahsoka, I was very happy. He's definitely not your typical antagonist. And then, of course, the ending, which was mind blowing. Great transition, great reveal. The Anakin look weird. You don't have to de-age Hayden. He's like he looks so good in Obi-Wan Kenobi. He looks fantastic.
It's so I've seen the internet, unfortunately, which you know, I lived through Kenobi, and people were like, he looks old. Why didn't they de-age him? And now I'm here where they have
people said that.
They did. The heroes on both sides, villains everywhere. But I'm on brand. But there's no winning with some people. But honestly,
how did you feel, Nathan?
So my brain's stupid. My brain likes to autofill reasoning because I love what I love. So I saw and I was like, he is de-aged, but I don't mind it, which is funny because like I can still see the age in his face. So I guess most people may have like the feeling that he looks kind of glossy, but then in my brain,
that's what it looks like, yeah.
But in my brain, which I'm presuming is the case, is like I'm like, oh, he's a Force ghost. He's ghostly. Like it's fine.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. We've seen Force ghosts not look.
We're in their realm. I don't know. Again, the Worlds Between Worlds is so.
It's so.
We barely scratched the surface of understanding it.
Yeah, we'll get to it at the end. I'm slightly nervous. I'm seeing what Filoni's cooking. Just stick with what you did in World Between Worlds, the episode World Between Worlds. Don't try and push your luck, Filoni. Don't try and push it to be like, new rules. Stick with it's not time travel. Stick with what we got. Don't try and be like, create different portals and different stuff. I've heard some theories. We'll talk about it at the end, but like I'm slightly nervous, but I'm optimistic. Filoni's the one who created this realm. I'm sure he knows how to handle it correctly for a long period of time. Because it worked so well in the Rebels, where it was an episode focused on like the ambiguity of the realm, but mostly on Ezra's personal journey with learning to let go.
It was a lesson.
It was a lesson. Hopefully, we stick with that with Ahsoka, and I think it is because I don't think this Anakin is good. He could be bad. The Vader theme plays, so it's definitely ominous. It'd be weird if they play a Vader theme and he's like, "Hey, Snips, how's it going? I'm back." It's like, well, last time you were a Force Ghost, you were wearing your, you weren't wearing your Episode 3 robes in Return of the Jedi. So something is happening.
Yeah, it was a lot more like simplistic robes.
Yeah, and Filoni knows that, right? He's not going to change robes for no reason. He's not going to change physical features for no reason.
What is this, the special edition?
So exactly. So there's a reason why he is wearing the last clothes Ahsoka saw him in, at least. So that might be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's probably a thing where a Force ghost could appear as, what's best suited for the person they're visiting, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, because we haven't gotten too much Force ghost stuff when you really think about it, so even the rules there are kind of up in there. True,
very true. And like even in that Rebels episode, season 4 was all full of weird stuff, like Sidious interacting with the realm via like some weird fire stuff we never seen before. Sidious changing his physical features to Ezra when he's in the Jedi Temple recreation. So things
might be a boy.
It might be a boy. I'll kill him.
Kill him now.
So things are weird.
Go to him,
Things are weird. But let's begin because we'll go back to the World Between Worlds. There's tons there's tons and there's not tons to think about there. It's like we'll just wait and see. But anyways,
Can Rhaego? Can she see Ben in her movie?
Right.
Can we do
Man. I kind of like as soon as that episode ended, I saw a lot of the Raylo people being like, "There's a chance."
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's a chance. And again, it's not time travel, but like with the ambiguity of what happened in Tross, you never really know. There could be tons of things Lucasfilm could do if they even tried.
I heard Ben talk in the World Between Worlds episode. I heard it.
Right? Yeah. Ben / Kylo, we heard him. So overall, Nathan, this episode, I think I wrote down here, there's a sharp theme about like personal connections and the issues and the strengths that give us or that come with personal connections. So Sabine struggles with it mostly. That's like the crux of the episode. But Ahsoka, much to her surprise, deals with it at the end as well, with the Anakin callbacks and with what happened to Sabine, what she thinks has happened with Sabine. And Baylan as well. The episode's called Fallen Jedi, and I think a lot of it applies to a lot of different characters here. Of course, we automatically, at least for me, I automatically think of Baylan and Shin, but it also, of course, applies to Ahsoka as well. And it could apply to Sabine, even though she's not a proper Jedi yet.
It once applied to Anakin.
It once applied to Anakin, exactly. So it's very interesting. So I'm very curious. But overall, that theme of personal connections, it's right from the jump, where we have Ahsoka talking about, Ahsoka, Sabine, Hu Yang are stuck on Cetos. They got, previously on Ahsoka, they're stuck on Cetos. Ship's not working correctly. But Ahsoka says the primary goal here is to stop Thrawn, no matter what. And if that means having to, destroy the map before the villains even get there, etc., like insinuating that destroying the map, making sure nobody gets to Thrawn / Ezra could be the optimal move. And granted, it's optimal, but for Sabine, that's not why she's here. She's here to, deal with the guilt, deal with the, that trauma of Ezra, and she can't let that go. And it's interesting for me for Ahsoka to be feeling like this. And I've been thinking about this for the last couple episodes now. Ahsoka is very much a guarded character now in comparison to even how she was in Rebels and definitely how she was in the Clone Wars. She's much more guarded, much more, and people can say that via her acting. Rosaria's acting is very like stilted. But I think that's to a degree. I think that's to the purpose of the character and where she's at right now in her arc. Intentional a little bit, exactly. And I think Ahsoka being so guarded could lead to like why she abandoned Sabine in the first place. Again, the theme of personal connections, of just being like, do the optimal move regardless of personal relationships, which is something that Anakin never really did, right? She grew up 5 years however long the Clone Wars was, 3 years of the Clone Wars. Anakin preaching about like, do what we gotta do, always consider the personal connection, like save the clones, right? Save Anakin, save Obi-Wan. Like, the people she was close to are always paramount in her rescue, no matter the goals as a Jedi. So it's interesting seeing that like being a little bit of a conflict or struggle for Ahsoka now, where she's saying, Ezra, the person that saved her, Ezra Bridger, the person that saved her from the World Between Worlds, or via World Between Worlds. Same character, Ahsoka, being like, if we can't save him, we can't save him because Thrawn's the bigger threat here, which is just shocking to me overall. So I'm very curious what Ahsoka's, because again, I was looking for Ahsoka's arc here. And we mentioned it at the end of episode 2, how it's Ahsoka the gray, not Ahsoka the white that we see in the Rebels, in the Rebels image. But maybe given the restructuring of everything going on, like we talked about earlier in the last couple episodes, maybe she can be growing into becoming Ahsoka the White. And it all starts with what we see at the end of this episode with the Soul Force stuff here. Because she has been a very different Ahsoka than what we're used to.
Yeah. It could arguably, be akin to the journey that Luke goes on in The Last Jedi, very different than the optimistic Jedi he once was, given the events that he lived through, and being on the journey of him rediscovering that sense of purpose.
Exactly, the sense of purpose, sense of like becoming who you really were again. Because ever since she became the fallen Jedi, excuse me, ever since she left the Jedi Order, she's been different. She was different in season 7 in the Clone Wars, but then she still had that like that grit, that fun, and that was because she was bouncing off of a character like Rex, somebody she had a personal connection with.
Yeah.
And then in Rebels, she was also a bit more like Jedi mastery, a bit more, superior, but also very friendly with the Ghost crew, very friendly. She was determined to get Vader back, Anakin and Vader, um, she's determined to fight him. And then a lot of these emotional connections, even in Rebels. She helped Ezra again with that whole "let him go" message in the World Between Worlds episode. And now we get to hear, and we learned that she had abandoned Sabine, at least from other characters' perspectives. They stopped training. Now they're back, and she's telling the person that she brought back on her journey, knowing she's connected to Ezra, being like, maybe we can't save Ezra. So just that early thought there was always very interesting to me. I'm very curious to see where that goes, because we know we're getting Ezra. We know we're going to get him either way. He's in the show.
We know Thrawn makes it.
We know Thrawn makes
aboard that ship.
Yeah. Which I don't know. It's a spoiler, but not a spoiler, because it's like if the show wouldn't have given us an escape Thrawn, why are we here?
But, I mean, technically at that point, all they've marketed is like, well, they get there.
Yeah.
But will they make it out? Likely, because there's a movie.
Wow. True. So I'm very excited there. But yeah, but then we move on to let's see here. Yeah, so again, I made a note, like she seems to have lost that sense of hope and replaced it with fear. Which again, that concept of fear, the fear of personal connections, connects also with Sabine, and we'll get to at the end of the episode. But yeah, Ahsoka reiterates, setting aside personal feelings to do what's right. Sabine and Ahsoka team up against these HK droids. Very cool thing. Huyang going off on the HK droids, not defeating them, but just like holding his own with 1,000 years of training was pretty cool. Pretty. I like Huyang.
I don't know if we brought up one of the weeks. So I think I had a question like, can Huyang do battle? Because he doesn't have a saber, but if he did, I was like, could he? This answered tenfold that he's. I want to rewatch Real Steel so bad.
Real Steel is so good. Sean Levy, director of Free Guy as well. Great movie, great director. If he wants to be, I mean, that last movie he did on Netflix with Ryan, whatever his name is, Reynolds, trash. Not great. But overall,
what, the Adam Project? You didn't like it?
What was it called?
Adam Project.
Adam Project, hated it. It was just so boring. But I like the kid who played Percy Jackson. What's his name? Wow, I don't know the Percy Jackson actor's name right now. I'm blanking. Can't wait to watch
this. Fake fan.
Fake fan. Oh,
clip this and haunt you forever.
No.
1832.
Why am I thinking of William? His name's not William.
Why did I think of is it
Noah?
Hunter?
Hunter sounds close.
No.
Percy Jackson actor. But anyways, the only reason I didn't like that movie was because of what's it called? He was just playing Ryan Reynolds, not Logan Lerman. Oh my god. Walker Scobell. Thank you, Walker Scobell. I was like, I think it was William
Poseidon actor Logan Lerman.
No.
It's what he deserves.
And we got here Ahsoka and Sabine teaming up, and then shortly afterward, before they leave, Huyang is like, stick together, because when they were together, they were going off. And granted, it was HK droids, but like they felt in sync when they were together. And as we see later on in the episodes, when they're apart, chaos happens. So
calamity.
Yeah, so not great, Bob. But then we take a short cut over to home of Ahsoka and Jason for now.
And Hera was like, "Hey, we're going on a dangerous mission. Let me bring my son."
Yeah, and then stand right in front of a hyperdrive. We'll get to it. Weird.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's like turn.
Oh, you're gonna jump. You don't want to move.
Yeah, you don't know. Move. They're all like, "Whoa!"
I guess a wide radius, but I don't know.
It was weird. They just stood there. They're like, "Oh, something bad about to happen." I'm like, "Yeah, I should move out the way." We'll get to it. Weirdos.
Cool
Um,
effect though.
very cool. So yeah, Hera brings along Jason. Are they doing anything with Jason? What do you think? Is he background decoration, Nathan? Is he going to mean something to the show? Or is he just there?
Well, I know it's like the biggest throwaway line in the whole saga, but he does say that I have a bad feeling, which I know even non-Force users say. But it could st- story thematically could have a stepping stone to his connection to the Force. Because I imagine that they'd want to Filoni would want to play around with that as son of Kanan.
I hope so. Have some fun with it, Filoni. So
We,
far,
we gotta know another half of the season.
exactly, yeah. But now, it's so interesting. Again, I'll leave it to the end for theories for the end. But since we're here now, um, it's like
Granted, the show's not about Jason, so it
it's
probably won't be.
not. That's what I'm getting to. Like our main hero is behind enemy lines. Sabine, spoiler. She's behind enemy lines. Love that trope. Uh,
Mhm.
like same thing when Ray went to Supremacy. I was like, oh, give me Ray alone behind enemy lines. Whenever shows, manga, whatever does that with a hero alone and has to like interact with the villains alone. Omega at the end of Bad Batch season 2 is now behind enemy lines. Perfect. I love that
And
trope.
and maybe the best shot you have ever seen is Ray laying in the coffin like
Oh my god.
escape pod with the saber, and then the door opens. Standing right over is the man, the myth, the Swallow.
Ben all nervous, like, what should I say? I'm getting nervous. I have to be
I don't
me.
think they talked until they got to the elevator, frankly.
Oh, they did. They didn't know, but like internally, I mean,
But that
um,
elevator scene is just
what? Quick Last Jedi theater flashback.
ooh.
I love a good romantic rom com elevator scene. It happens in every rom com ever. But when the elevator shoots up and we stick into the elevator shot and we get an elevator, Kylo and Ben, or Kylo and Ray, I'm like, you're kidding me, Ryan Johnson's giving me an awkward elevator scene? Are you kidding me?
You're
It was
sitting in
the
a
best
silent
thing
theater and you just go woo.
ever. I'm like the audio track on these TV shows. Woo! But it was amazing. I love a good elevator scene. Hopefully, we get some. What?
Ben says, "I want you to join me," and the audience goes, "Oh."
Oh.
I have to make an edit now. I have to do it. I'm writing it down.
Exactly.
I'm doing it. I'm committing.
um, and what was I going to say? Oh yeah, there are some things cooking with Sabine. Sabine and Shin already have a dynamic since episode 1. And I'm like, give me some Sabine Shin stuff here. Shin's already like a character that we don't know much. Same for Balin again. We don't know much about these characters, who they are, where they came from. Again, I don't need a whole background. I said this in the sequel trilogy. I don't need background information. I can read a wiki page whenever I want to. But I want some good present day interactions, and I think they're cooking with Sabine and Shin. I could see a jealous Shin dynamic. She's like, why'd you let this girl live? What's going on here? Like, she's very chaotic. We'll get to Shin because I love the name Shin. Shin's the name of one of my favorite anime characters in '86. Shin, but Shin is just a fascinating character so far.
Shin is a good Godzilla.
Shin Godzilla as well. It's very interesting. But anyways, how to get to that? Oh yeah, so what I was saying with the whole Hera thing, the show's gonna be about mainly Sabine, Shin, Balin, the antagonist crew going to the new galaxy, Ahsoka, World Between Worlds, then going to the new galaxy somehow, some way she'll get there. What's Hera and them going to do? Just chill and just be like, well, we got to go find them. It could be interesting, a la like The Martian, where it's like your home base crew is like, we got to go rescue Matt Damon. And it was kind of interesting. Granted, they weren't doing much till the end of the movie, but like, we could get that with Ahsoka or Hera here, where it's like they can't really do much in the present because they don't have the technology, but they could help Ahsoka. Maybe they're the ones that rescue Ahsoka, and then they travel together to the galaxy. Ahsoka could be like, "Hey guys, I'm down here still. My friend and Sabine just left." So I could see some Hera and Ahsoka making their way to the new galaxy together.
Do you think maybe, in terms of the usage of the World Between Worlds, to have the Outlook You know, because the fact of the matter is, the whole. I saw your tweet today. It was like nothing's time travel; it's all predestined to happen. So when Ahsoka was saved, it wasn't her jumping through time. She was always meant to be pulled out at that moment. Maybe we have an instance where another look of a gateway is opened, shown to Ahsoka, and maybe it is the map before it was destroyed, and maybe she gets basically another copy of it.
I don't think that can work, right? You can't create two of something that would never existed.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know when it would be pulled, given that you can't take it from the temple she found it. 'Cause she has to find it in the first place.
Exactly.
And we saw it all the way up to its destruction. So.
Oh wait, there's a lot of blank space before she found it, right? So there's a time thing showing the map before she even walked up to find it. Maybe, no, it still can't be true.
She would have to then put it back, right?
Yeah, she would have to put it back and then act like it was her first time seeing it. Because again, it's all a loop, so she would know in episode 1 that she already touched it. So yeah, but there is a way. There is a way.
Maybe I don't know if she can like look into a more concrete readout of coordinates. I don't know.
True. Yeah.
Maybe she just walks into the location. I don't know, but we have to get Hera and crew there. I imagine. I imagine where we're at right now. I know this is like a hidden episode, but Hera's squad is down to 2 fighters. Carson Teva being back as one of them. I can see that being the stepping stone of getting Zeb into the story because Carson and him were stationed at a New Republic location in Mando Season 3. So we know they're connected already.
True. And it's, by the way, very funny that Carson Teva was one of the remaining survivors. I'm like, you don't kill this guy off.
No. Did you see his poster today?
Yeah, the same poster from Mando.
It was copy pasted and relit.
That was great.
But as like an artist that hasn't put out much, I'm like, I feel it. How many times have I put the same photo? But
yeah. Sorry. Anyways, so we got. Let's see here. So yeah, Hera and crew joined to go find Ahsoka. Morgan, more nice or magic. Morgan conjures a spell to locate the galaxy with the map. She pulls. Because I was wondering, I'm like, in episode 3 we saw her in space. Now we see her on Cetos. Why is she here? Is she just chilling here? I was like, why did she go back to the planet? But she went back to the planet to officially put the map in place and also use her Night Sister magic to give it the trajectory coordinates, basically. Mm-hmm. Using the Night Sister magic, connecting their galaxy to the galaxy where Thrawn is presumably at. How does she know where Thrawn is presumably at? I'm assuming we don't know yet, but like it's not important. But it's like I assume the one with the whales, they were just like, oh, it has the whales. Maybe that's where the whales. If the whales' homeland is where Thrawn is at, maybe I don't know. Follow the Purgil. But either way, she sets the coordinates for that. Baylor reminds her if they're off by even a little bit, it could spell disaster for people, because they could end up anywhere or it can then just get.
Oh shit! It's the Nile.
Yeah, basically, it's very much the Nile, where it's like the Nile could eject people out of hyperspace or disappear anywhere. So this is gonna be interesting. Given that Ahsoka, later on in the episode adjusted or took out the map and then Balin put it back, I'm like, things could be trickier than it seems.
Did you glitch the upload?
Exactly, right? Like it all locked in, they're all there. They said coordinates are completed. Are they completed incorrectly? Is there a bump in the system? Maybe they could easily do that. But I just want to get to Thrawn and Ezra already. But people are like, oh, it could be the mid-season finale or the penultimate episode for Thrawn and Ezra. I'm like, maybe. We'll see. I would hope it's just like the episode 6 would be Thrawn and Ezra. Maybe 6, 7, 8 is 3 episodes for Ahsoka to meet Sabine and Ezra. I don't know. It could cook. Anyways, so yeah, it could spell disaster if they're off by even a little bit. Which again, big hint. I fear that's going to be happening in the future. But Ahsoka Sabine confronts Shin and Marok in a very cool, we're your opponents right now. Shin ceremoniously takes off the jacket. I'm like, it's time. Let's go. Round 2 already. I'm here for it. And
she threw off her robe, and I felt like Miles looking at Hobie when he took off his mask. I was like, how are you even cooler? It's not fair.
Shin is so cool. Did Balin teach her how to be cool? Like, because Balin, no hood on. But then later in the episode, when Ahsoka comes up, just puts the hood back on so we can take it off again.
How much time has passed?
Yeah, what are you doing, Balin? You take it on, take it off, take it on, take it off. I'm like,
you put the hood on and then you took it all
off. I'm like, why? Why'd you put it back on in the first place?
Theatrics, baby.
It's theatrics, baby. And Shin, part of that theatrics, she's like, it's time. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I
want to see that lesson in the temples where they're like,
me too.
Toss it back. Don't just drop it.
You gotta be like Anakin and Obi-Wan. They mastered it in Revenge of the Sith. When they walked up to Count Dooku, they were like, they were ready.
Remember Karate Kid 2010 where he was like, all right, put on your jacket. Right, take it off. Hang it up.
Yeah.
Put on your jacket.
Do it again. I forgot there's a new Karate Kid movie, by the way, coming out like next week or something. Yeah.
Is it canon to Cobra Kai?
I think they're bringing back Jackie Chan. But it was like riddled with like, not controversy, but granted the Jackie Chan controversy isn't great either. But like, it might not be connected with Cobra Kai, and I'm like, what?
Is this its own thing again?
Maybe, but I'm like, Cobra Kai is 5 seasons deep in extending the Karate Kid lore. And it's a great show, and you're gonna make a movie, you just ignore that? What? It's weird. Sony's gonna Sony.
Does Cobra Kai have any? This is off topic. Does Cobra Kai have any connection to the next Karate Kid?
What's the next Karate Kid? That's the third one, fourth one.
The fourth one that had what's her name?
Oh, something Elizabeth Shue.
Swank.
Hilary Swank.
Elizabeth Shue was in the first one.
Got it. Hilary Swank. Not yet. There are theories that she could appear in the final season, because they are big fans of everything Karate Kid. But she has
Miyagi was in that movie too. I was just obvious.
Miyagi's mentioned every single episode.
Daniel's whole fucking dealership.
Yeah. What would Miyagi do? Miyagi Dojo. Miyagi. We get it. You love the guy. Man.
It's like, how do I put karate into this?
I know. I mean, it's successful.
Everyone comes to him like, what are you talking about? It's cars.
Man,
I get that transmission fixed. Like,
come on, just fix my fucking car. No. I miss that show so much. It's great.
Stop waxing it.
If people have not watched Cobra Kai on Netflix, it is fantastic, easy television, 30 minutes each episode. Wow. Fantastic. It's funny. It's cheesy.
Can you believe it started as a YouTube original?
Right? And I was like, I'm not watching this. It sounds so YouTube original.
I have to subscribe to premium.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. But as soon as they hit Netflix, I'm like, I've never seen the Karate Kid movies. So I was like, let me watch these Karate Kid movies. And I watched the whole trilogy. Actually, I watched 2 of them and half of 3.
I remember, I don't know if I get in trouble. I remember one day, YouTube Premium had like some sort of special where they were like, everything's available for 24 hours. And I was like, I'm breaking out the YouTube downloader, downloading Cobra Kai season 1.
Oh, wow.
I didn't watch it though. But, opportunity.
But it's a great show. It's cheesy, heartwarming, but like the character dynamics, the character relationships are actually written very well in very surprisingly ways. Like there's some dynamics, interactions I'm just huge fans of, and there's good romance, cheesy romance, but good romance. It's just a fun show. I'd be shocked if people just don't like it. I mean, if the cheesiness isn't for them, it's like not for them, but it can get real heartfelt. Anyways, where were we? So we got the confrontation. Ahsoka easily dispatches Marok, but this fight alone, I was watching it. I'm like, what's Ahsoka doing here? Again, I mentioned to Jalen mid-episode. I'm like, Ahsoka dispatched fifth brother, seventh sister very easily in Rebels. Very easily. Stuck a lightsaber in between their spinning, Inquisitor lightsaber. It deignited it. and dispatched them easily in the episode like Friends of the Force, Family of the Force, whatever it's called. And now she's struggling with Marok. That could also have to do with the Night Sister magic origins, possibly. But also, she's older as well. Jedi, though, the older you get, the stronger you get, depending. Count Dooku at the end of his life was stronger than he was at the beginning of his life.
I didn't see him do backflips.
Who? Oh, Marok? Or
not Dooku.
Dooku. I mean, he was backflipping in Revenge of the Sith.
Did he? Oh, I guess. Yeah. Wait, his introduction. He walks out and he jumps off the platform.
Yeah, in a very goofy CGI manner.
Right.
Weird. Yeah. Whenever I see that now, I'm like, oh, that is goofier than I remembered. But it's cool.
I'll see in between shots of like the swordsman doing the shit, and I'm like, that is not Christopher Lee's head.
Not at all.
Not the actor either. It's CG.
For a long time, the Dooku duel beginning of the Wednesday was always my favorite duel of the movie, which was underrated because people, of course, Anakin versus Obi-Wan is iconic, but like I was always a big fan of Anakin's strength showcasing here, and we'll get back to that because Anakin's duel against Dooku, very much what we see with Baylan versus Ahsoka, in a different manner, of course. Ahsoka's a different opponent than either of those combatants, but Anakin's Gemso, Form 5, I mean, dueling, and how it just dismantled Dooku's pretty nearly unbeatable lightsaber stance was miraculous in Revenge of the Sith, and Baylan pretty much does the same thing here to Ahsoka, where it's just like, if you're brute strength enough, if you're fast enough, you can break the biggest of defenses. And that's what made Dooku so unbeatable throughout the Clone Wars and throughout his life, is that like his lightsaber stance was just, if you had just one lightsaber, it'd be a wrap. Like Dooku was just one of the best duelists of his era, and Baylan, he's cooking, because I'm like, wow, like Ahsoka has faced a lot of strong opponents throughout the Clone Wars. Grievous. Did she ever fight Dooku?
I don't know if she ever fought Dooku. She fought Ventress quite a bit.
Yeah, thank you. Ventress a lot. Grievous, Ventress. She fought Vader, lost pretty handedly in Rebels. But still, like, her weakness is characters like Vader, like Baylan. It's not surprising that Baylan came out victorious here. Granted, the beauty of Star Wars is that each battle is different for different reasons. But
her arm got incapacitated amidst it.
Exactly, right? Each battle is different for different reasons. Vader is just like outclassed. There's no way she's winning that battle. But for Baylan, her arm was damaged already, and Baylan was just pounding her. It was amazing. Stop it. So
it was your mind.
Your eye thing. Anyways, Ahsoka easily dispatches Marok. Nothing much to say here. But I like how she does change stances here. This was the first instance of like, okay, Peter Ramsey or Filoni, both of them, really taking into account here the stance changes. And that happens first here with Marok, where she, tests him out a little bit, but then easily puts her lightsaber above her head and just does one swift movement, similar to what we saw with Obi-Wan fighting Maul. It's just put the lightsaber above your head, juke them in one swift, clean slice behind samurai slice there. It's great.
Yeah, it's very samurai, and that's why I love it so much. Because I instantly did flashback to Twin Suns, and I was like, okay, this episode has my fucking heart and soul.
Right? And Twin Suns, what made Twin Suns so special was that, like, I'm not the biggest lightsaber duelist or, aficionado. I used to be. I used to memorize the forms. But in Twin Suns, it's an emotional, powerful, and complicated duel that only lasts like 5 seconds. But even then,
the reason you're there is where like the dialogue.
Exactly, the dialogue is so powerful. Maul's hatred, Obi-Wan's commitment. It's so good. But also, Obi-Wan jukes Maul. He does the classic Qui-Gon stance to trick Maul into thinking, "Oh, I got this in the bag," and then he switches it up on him and does his classic Obi-Wan defensive style, and that just destroys Maul. And it's just one boom. Boom, slice. It's great. I love it so much. And Filoni is very on top of it. I'm surprisingly so. Like, there's certain things that Filoni just doesn't care about in regards to canon, but like these form styles, and I guess it has to do with Filoni's knowledge and love of like samurai references and samurai lore that Star Wars is based on, that East Asian influence.
Mhm.
And using that in Twin Suns and using that in droves here in episode 4 with Sabine versus Shin, Ahsoka versus Marok, and Ahsoka versus Balin. It was all cool to see that all come together. But anyways, Marok gets killed. Green smoke comes out of his, abdomen,
Mhm.
alluding to some kind of Night Sister magic stuff. I instantly thought like, oh, is he like, Savage Opress, where when he got killed, green stuff came out as well.
Ah,
Um,
a reanimated corpse,
a
basically.
reanimated, exactly, right? Which was weird because like Inquisitors have been done with for a long time now. Maybe he was a dead Inquisitor who just got revived by Morgan to work as a bodyguard, to work as an assassin,
Totally.
which could easily just be the case. Are we ever going to get explained? Probably not. Do I care? Probably not. But he was there. He was an opponent, and now he's gone. Now we get to the real antagonist in Sabine versus Shin. And Nathan, I loved this fight. I thought it was fantastic.
And maybe the coolest gotcha. Sabine throws her hand out like she's gonna use the Force,
And
as if
Shin's like,
yeah, instinctively, because if you're facing that, you're like, "Fuck."
yeah, dude, yeah, automatic defense. Like, why'd you flinch?
It's like literally, it's like, "Oh fuck, someone's gonna throw sand in my eyes."
Yeah.
But then
Shin's
she
like,
turns back like,
ah!
aha, idiot. Like,
Yeah.
little does she know, the most amazing, just the quick. It's so good shooting the missile.
It was great. The missiles happen. Shin gets knocked out, and then Shin throws Sabine against a rock. Right? Is that the order of events? Because Shin makes it to Ahsoka first.
Yeah, that is true. I believe. Did Shin take her?
Did Shin
No,
get
no.
knocked out, and then we cut away, and then we cut back, and then when Shin throws Sabine, right?
But yeah, I think Sabine gets knocked back while Shin goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just remembering when Sabine's saber gets taken. But that's after she's
That's
captured.
after she's captured, yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
overall, I thought Shin's lightsaber stance is very Form 1, very like in Form 1. I was familiar with it based off of DFA alone because I was a huge Kylo head, and the channel Stupendous Wave broke down Kylo versus Rey, and Kylo was full on erratic Form 1 style. And Form 1 is the basic form. Every Jedi knows it. It's just a one single blade lightsaber. And similar to Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor, the single lightsaber stance is very formidable. It's the most interchangeable. It's the most like how do you describe it? Most adaptable stance because it's one single blade. You can adapt to mostly everything. But it's also used for beginners like Kylo in The Force Awakens and Shin here in Ahsoka. And she's just very sporadic, very erratic with that. I love seeing that raw energy, that character trait of just being so raw, so erratic, so like aggressive. Very much a Kylo, very cool character trait. I really like that about certain characters.
yeah.
It led Kylo to being, this character that was so like chaotic, unshoveled, unfocused, and he grew into a character like as we see in Last Jedi and Dross. What's going to become Shin? Is she going to stay just chaotic and aggressive, or is she going to grow into something stronger or worse? Well, who's to know?
I don't want her to just be like a mad villain that just, lets the anger get the better of her, and then she falls to her anger and then dies as a result.
I see that happening. I don't want it either. I want her to grow into something. I mean, I wouldn't mind if she grows something worse, if she just plunges down the depths of the dark side. But because she's so young, there has to be a certain key point that Filoni was here for, right? Like he created a master and apprentice relationship. He didn't just say, "Hey, these are these two older fallen Jedi, like Balin and another equally older character." He made a point of making Shin younger so they can match with Sabine, and I think her and Sabine are primed for a parallel arc here, or maybe a perpendicular, and Shin goes somewhere else. So I'm very curious.
Have Ezra come up to her, drop some words of wisdom, maybe.
To Sabine or Shin?
Shin.
I would love that. I would love that. Shin versus Ezra would just be a fun match because Shin wouldn't stand a chance.
I think you would more likely see Ezra versus Balin, and see how much Ezra has grown in his fighting.
Don't tease me with a good time, Nathan.
It can happen.
Because I love, just rewatching Rebels, seeing the growth of Ezra as a lightsaber duelist and lightsaber aficionado. Like, he is so, when you see him in the season 1 finale facing off against Grand Inquisitor, granted he's a Grand Inquisitor, but Ezra just, like, he's an afterthought. It's mostly about Kanan.
Yeah.
But in season 3, season 4, Ezra is very much, like, very strong with the Force. But he never goes up against a lightsaber duelist in season 3 and 4. He's just super strong against crowd control. We don't really see him going against him one-on-one anybody, but like seeing him go against Balin will be awesome. Even though I think the series, given where episode 4 ended off, setting up a stronger Ahsoka versus Balin again. So we'll most likely get a round 2 there before we get Ezra versus Balin, but I would love it. I would love it. Like, hey, Sabine, thank you for carrying my lightsaber. Now it's time. Now it's game over. Even though I also want Sabine to keep Ezra's lightsaber, so I don't know where that's going to go though too. So is
Ezra may need it for the fight, but then progress to the makings of your own.
Okay, that'd be cool. I wouldn't mind that. Or Sabine could just create her own as well, which I also like, right? Like give it back to Ezra while she creates her own as she becomes a better Jedi.
Although I do like Hu Yang saying that since you made the modifications, it's now yours.
Oh, you're right. I completely forgot about that. That happened last week, right?
That was episode 2.
2. Okay,
that was Day.
I forgot about that. Yeah, so you made modifications, so now you're right. Yeah, great. Thank you for reminding me about that. Yeah, it's really cool.
The Ollivander of the Star Wars universe.
Exactly.
This was the wand of Ezra Bridger.
But yeah, the Sabine Shin fight is just so cool. There's been some gifs about it. The way the choreography is there, so cool. And like you mentioned with the whole flying bird scenario, when Sabine gets pushed, they do a shot. These cameras zooms in on the Mandalorian helmet that has fallen off Sabine, and it kind of clues us into like, don't forget where you came from, right? Where she gets pushed on the ground, helmet flies off, but she, even though she's trained to be a Jedi, she can be both, which we talked about last week as well. And she does that with the flying birds, the distraction, very cool. But as we know, she isn't a Jedi, so she easily has basically no force walls. And when Shin easily just pounds her against a tree and knocks her out, while Shin goes to face off against to go find Ahsoka and Balin, and that's where we get to the meat of the episode here, where Ahsoka confronts Balin, wearing his hood, all creepy and cool, like love it. And man, this is where Balin starts just delivering everything I wanted to. Just the screen presence alone, Nathan, is so cool. And he instantly starts talking about, as we saw in the trailers, Anakin Skywalker, trying to prod already at the small amount of emotional weaknesses that could exist inside Ahsoka at this point in time. And Ahsoka's always a sore subject. I mean, Anakin's always a sore subject. And him just delivering about like how Anakin's past, about leaving the Jedi Order. Yeah. Is this why you became the way you are now, Ahsoka? Like, Anakin left the Jedi Order. That must have had a big effect on you, kind of thing.
Yeah, must have left a mark.
Yeah, must have left a mark. And
he straight up says, like, you abandoned him. Okay.
Okay, yeah. It's like, you weren't there, buddy.
The gloves are off, pal.
Yeah.
I was framed for a bombing. They were like, it's your great test. Fuck you.
Yeah. And of course, he mentioned about the whole Anakin becoming Vader thing as well, right? He kind of alludes to that, like, and it must have hurt you what became of Anakin eventually, which is interesting. I wonder how he figured that out. It doesn't really matter, but like, just that prodding about Anakin's past and his de-evolution becoming Vader, not great. But then, of course, we're teased with something about Balin himself, and we kind of learned a little bit with episode 2 about like Shin asked, what are we expecting here? And he's like, new beginnings or power beyond your understanding, right? And with this one, we get some interesting anime level stuff here where he says he's after something not exactly related to Thrawn. Where Ahsoka's like, why are you helping out Thrawn? What do you gain for Thrawn's arrival and Thrawn's return. And he's like, I'm not really after Thrawn. I'm paraphrasing here. But the conflict, the war that will arise with his return is something that Balin is interested in. Is something he can, I feel like he can thrive off of. And that was an interesting confrontation between Ahsoka and Thrawn, Ahsoka and Balin, because I'm like, what did he really want with Thrawn's arrival? But this idea of that, like, what does he think? I'm trying to think here.
What he had initially said was like, in order to create, one must first destroy.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In order to create, one must destroy. It's like this inevitability of conflict. With Thrawn's arrival, the galaxy will be brought into conflict, and in order to create something new, this conflict with Thrawn's arrival and the New Republic needs to happen. And presumably, Balin and Shin will thrive off of that conflict. How? It's not exactly stated, but it's not new that certain antagonists throughout fiction, they love this idea of conflict, of course, because death. But with Balin, though, it seemed like he's not excited about just like, oh, I love conflict, but he wants to create something new, right? Before, say it again.
In order to create, one must first destroy.
In order to create, one must first destroy. Combine that with what we learned in episode 2 about new beginnings. Connection means like, in order to create something new, one must first destroy. And coming from the words of a fallen Jedi, this might allude to like wanting to create something that is his own. Maybe he failed because he fell out of faith with what he believed in. He seems to be a man of like conviction.
He had a great line. Like Morgan said, like, have faith, and he said, faith. I lost that a long time ago.
Woo! Woo! Was that this episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, he's great. I forgot. I didn't write that one down. See, this is why I need to rewatch the episode twice. That would have totally written that one down. But yeah, it's like I lost faith a long time ago. Beautiful line. See, it's something I recognize as soon as I watch the episode. I'm like, But I didn't have my phone on me when I watched the episode because I'm always like, I always put my phone away. But usually I took notes in episode 1 and 2. And I forgot to take notes during the episode this time. But anyways,
you were just engaged.
What?
You were so engaged with the episode.
I really was, because I just like face down. I'm not looking at my phone during the episode. I do that all the time with anything I watch. But anyways, yeah, I lost faith a long time ago. So let's do this all, because again, these are all sprinkles of connections with Balin's past, Balin's prerogative. He wants a new beginning. He wants to destroy in order to create. He lost faith a long time ago. He lost faith in Jedi Order. Wants this new conflict with Thrawn so he can create something new. Does he think he can create a promise with Thrawn? Does he think he can create some kind of alliance with the new remnants of the Galactic Empire to create something new for himself and Shin? Or does he want to work with the victors? I'm not sure, but it's just interesting. I'm sure we'll learn more as Sabine is presumably gonna like talk with him when she's behind enemy lines.
I'm sure he's smart enough to pitch to Thrawn, presuming that the whole setup is that he's going to be the next ruler of the galaxy, there to the Empire. That, you know, hey, I had an aid in bringing you back to your power. And I think he would recognize Thrawn and be like, all right, in fairness, what do you want? And he'd probably be reserved enough to be like, I just need this small thing. Help me kickstart my path on what I'm looking for. It won't interject with your empire. Something like that.
It'll be interesting. He wants to create some kind of new Jedi. I don't even know if he wants to create a Jedi order, some kind of new order in general. This might lead to why he's not like fully red, kind of like an orange lightsaber. He's kind of teetering closer to the dark side than light, obviously. But but his arc of creating something new via the chaos could be what parallels Ahsoka as we progress through this season of creating something new with Sabine and the Jedi in general, the Jedi regaining her faith in the Jedi in comparison to Balin, who has lost faith and wants to create something new. Ahsoka is going to regain her faith and create something new with Sabine and with, I don't know, Ezra or whatever. I'm not saying Ahsoka's going to create a new Jedi Order. We know that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know. She can just want to like just first and foremost reignite something with Sabine, I think, and then go from there. But yeah, it's so interesting. The more I get with Balin, I'm like, I hope you live long enough to be much more interesting than what we have so far. Not saying he's not interesting now; he's great, but like, I think he has a lot of potential. I don't want him to die at the end of episode 8, but I'm already assuming him and Shin are not going to make it past the season. But
it's unfortunate that we've also in real life lost Ray Stevenson.
Oh, yeah. What am I thinking of? Yeah. So he's probably not making it out this season. But Shin, let Shin cook. I think Shin has some potential, especially if there's a season 2, which is already rumored, but you never know with these shows.
What if there was a reveal that the Master and Apprentice relationship between Balin and Shin, maybe it's a parental thing? Could be interesting, of like guiding a child into this new era.
He lost faith because he couldn't, do the deed of the Jedi.
I don't know.
And then found Balin, or found Shin, or just in general, he could have found Shin, becomes more parental that way. Oh man, yeah, that's interesting. I would like that. There is a level of like parental guidance there at the end where he's like, "Hey, I'm loyal. You should be loyal too. Don't kill Sabine."
That was one of my favorite bits. I know we haven't really got there, but I love that. Most times you would expect like, hey, I know you have no other shot, but hey, I respect you. I think I have faith in you, so you should have faith in me in this moment. Give me what I need, and I'll help you out. And then 11 times out of 10, the villain's like, gotcha. But I admire so much that Balin stayed true to his word to be like, no, she is going to come with us. Do not harm her. Here we go.
I was surprised in so many ways at the end with Sabine's decision and Balin's decision. I was like, okay. I mean, and now in both ways led to something much more interesting than I was expecting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's continue here. Balin looks very disappointed to fight Ahsoka. He kind of sighs before they begin. He's like,
he said it's inevitable.
Inevitable. This guy, man.
This is the king of one words.
The king of one words. You were just like, oh! Yeah. He's great.
Experience. Faith. Inevitable.
Anakin. So, yeah, they changed stances multiple times. Balin's excellent use of the gem. So I have here, the
what?
Gem So, Form 5, basically. DJEM So. And it's so cool because he's always dual wielding. He doesn't use he's always like, two-handing his lightsaber. Like kind of like a cross guard stand to people who have played. If people have played Jedi Survivor, the way that Cal moves with his cross guards is very similar to what Balin does with his movesets, with the big arcing 180-degree swings, right? It's like
you get a spin.
Swings, the spins, exactly. It's amazing. Ahsoka also.
This is one of my favorite moves that Kylo does in Force Awakens when he just
did. Oh yeah, the boom boom spin arc just to gain that momentum. Yeah, and Finn's just like,
he's like, oh fuck.
Yeah, and this is where I lost. Yeah. Yeah, great. But yeah, so we see Balin just using his power, and we've seen Ahsoka refusing to dual cast here. Is Nathan still there? Hello, Nathan? Oh, Nathan froze. I'll continue to talk a little bit while Nathan gets back here. But yeah, Ahsoka refusing to dual wield was a very interesting choice. We've seen Ahsoka dual wield in a lot of her major fights throughout the Clone Wars, especially, and throughout Rebels. When she was fighting Vader, somebody also very adept at that powerful Form 5, just overpowering, physical, crushing mentality that Vader was known for, helped him defeat 90% of the Jedi Order. Now with Balin, a similar opponent to Vader, she goes back to using just one saber. And like I mentioned, using one saber is very much more adept at like creating openings and being more, how should I say, adaptable overall. Oh, there you are.
There we go.
I was just talking about Ahsoka's forms here. Ahsoka goes back to using one lightsaber instead of multiple. Like she doesn't even pull out her second lightsaber here in this fight. And there's also a stance where she puts lightsaber behind her back like that. Again, very similar to what Cal does with his crossguard. He puts it behind himself before he swings. So she goes from putting it in front of her to putting it behind her. It's very cool. Just try again, switching up the stances to adjust to your opponent's moveset. Very cool, just overall. And using Form 1 or Form 5, but also using the acrobatics on top of that, because that's who Ahsoka is. Using the rocks for leverage, using the rocks to double jump. It was very cool. Meanwhile, Balin's just overpowering her constantly, and at the same time, continuing to verbally press Ahsoka about her legacy and Ahsoka and Anakin as well. So it was great. So it's getting hit from both sides, emotionally and physically. And then Ahsoka does get the upper end. She used the rock for leverage and manages to kick Balin, send him on the ground, breaks his defense for a moment, just enough for Ahsoka to grab the map, and it just burns her hand. I was like, yeah, it's like taking a cookie out of the oven. It's hot. It's hot.
Like eating a pizza roll and not waiting for it to cool.
Yeah, I've had pizza roll in a minute.
They're still good.
Are they? Yeah. But it's like I don't really have lunch anymore. After school, I just like eat a snack, then I have dinner. I'm like, I don't really have time for pizza rolls.
Never had a pizza roll dinner?
No. I mean, back when I was 12.
What do you say?
I'm saying you need to grow the fuck. No, I'm kidding.
I think you need some pizza. I'm gonna go make you some pizza roll. I'll be right back.
Thank you. So yeah, Balin gets kicked. She grabs the map, and then Balin quickly recovers, presses the offensive, and from here the fight is pretty much over because she's struggling to hold her lightsaber together, and Balin is just overpowering her tremendously.
Yeah, he's a sledgehammer, and lightsabers, as was described when they were first brought out, is like they're very heavy.
Exactly.
And to only hold your defense with one hand is not great, Bob.
Great shot of her holding with one hand, trying to use the Force as the other secondary piece of defense here, but
and
it didn't work.
Even like when we get to the point where she goes to throw Shin against the wall, she's using her saber hand because it's the only one that's good.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. So yeah. Speaking of Shin, Shin shows up, and that kind of startles Ahsoka. Mid defending herself from this brutal attack from Balin, she then has to confront Shin, and again that personal connection that Ahsoka talked about at the beginning. Regardless of your personal feelings, Sabine, if there comes a choice, we have to destroy the map before we can, before they can get to Thrawn. However, her actions don't associate with her words here at the end, where her personal feelings with Sabine startles her, and she instantly throws Shin against a wall and kind of loses the battle.
Because all she knows is that Shin is here, Sabine is not.
Yeah. So, and then you hear her say, like, Sabine, like a feeling of distress there, and it kind of startles her. Not great. And instantly throws Shin. Balin's not happy about that either. Like, don't you dare hurt my apprentice either. And then Balin just before Balin can even throw Ahsoka off the edge, Sabine then shows up after Shin gets knocked out, right? Because Ahsoka then tells Sabine that, like, hey, because Sabine comes up with the map, blaster in hand, which hindsight now with Balin having to like crush it with his lightsaber,
probably wouldn't.
Sabine wasn't winning that fight anyway, right? Even if she's like, gotcha, dink, and then she's
or like, bounces off like,
just
my leg.
That map was too durable for one shot, so that would have been it wouldn't have worked anyways. But again, Sabine shows up, can't manage to destroy the map. She struggles with it, even with Ahsoka yelling at her like, "Destroy the map." We knew she wasn't gonna destroy that map.
Right.
Very hard to watch though. It was like it's great because you're like, I want Sabine to not destroy the map, but I also want Ahsoka to live here. What's gonna happen?
What would you have done
If I'm Ahsoka or Sabine? If I'm Sabine,
if you had to destroy the map?
I'm not destroying the map.
No.
No, because I think Ahsoka's plan is so rigid, right? Ahsoka, which is also a flaw in her current character arc. Not that her arc is bad; it's just she has to have flaws for her to grow. Yeah. But Ahsoka is so rigid in the idea of like, hey, the villains can't even get to Thrawn, which means, sorry, Ezra, we're going to cut him off at the source. Instead of just following the villains to the location, which they were already planning to do, dismantling Thrawn there and then rescuing Ezra at the same time. That's something Anakin would have easily done. Yeah, let the villains win round one. We're going to follow them somehow. How Anakin always found a way, right? Yeah. There's always
the oldest quote is, you won the battle, but you haven't won the war.
You haven't won the war. Anakin always found a way, always wanting to push his ideas forward for the greater good and for his personal relationships. Sometimes, Anakin always dealt with the negative side of personal relationships. In Revenge of the Sith, it didn't turn out so good. But in general, it's not bad to follow your heart sometimes. And that's what Ahsoka feels like she shouldn't be doing. You shouldn't follow your heart. Got to go with the rule. Thrawn is a big threat. Don't follow your heart. Do what must be done. Yeah. It's very much like Baylan, though, that he had. Baylan's very rigid as well in his beliefs, as we'll get to in a second. So, yeah, I wouldn't have destroyed the map if I'm Sabine. I'm like, I'm not risking my friend's life. Ezra needs our help. He would have done the same thing for us. And Ezra, also a great Jedi, and Kanan, two Jedi who followed their heart a lot of the times and did what they thought was right for them, but also was right for everybody.
It's funny, right? Like, there's been so many Rebels episodes where, like, an episode where one of the crew gets caught, and the immediate instinction of one of them is like, well, we can't leave them. We got to go back.
Exactly. When the optimal thing was just like, we got to regroup. The first thing the Rebels crew did was like, we're going back, or we're going to figure this out somehow. Yeah. Like Hera. Yeah, when Hera gets captured in Jedi Dune or Jedi Knight, it's like the optimal thing was like, we can't get to Hera. It's a wrap, right? Like we can't do it. We got to regroup with the Rebels. No, we're going back in there, even though that could cause the Rebels to lose Kanan, Hera, Ezra. It'll be a crushing blow to the earlier rebellion, but they do it anyways because they feel like they can win by saving Hera and still survive. Granted, it didn't work out, but they always try their best. And I think that's what Ahsoka is missing. I think that's something Ahsoka will learn in War Between Worlds. There isn't just one way of doing things, Ahsoka. You got to remember to live and follow your heart. Anyways, Sabine's unable to destroy the map. Ahsoka gets thrown off the edge. Crazy. As soon as she was on the edge, I'm like, oh, get thrown off the edge.
They started revealing that she was headed toward cliffside, and I was like, well, you're going over.
Well, you're going over, right?
The rule of framing is telling me you're gonna fall.
Exactly. Like
the episode is called
Fallen Jedi for a reason. So yeah, it was amazing. Sabine can't do it. And then Baylan ain't finished yet, folks. He has some what we call it Naruto, talk no jutsu, or just like talking convincing basically to do. And is evil convincing. And usually it doesn't work. I fully expected this not to work. I thought Sabine would be like, throw it over or shoot it or whatever.
Yeah.
She hands it to Baylan. But not after Baylan talks a lot and very interesting delivery, very interesting lines, chosen words here, where he talks about, let me pull up my notes here. He talks about how Ezra is the only family that Sabine has left, kind of prodding her connection with Ezra. Again, personal connections. How Ezra's the only family that she has left, how her family died, and your master didn't let you save them, or something like that. Your master didn't trust you, something along those words.
Died because your master didn't trust you?
Yes, something like that. And this brings a lot of bells, which confirms, yes, Sabine's parents did die on Mandalore during the original trilogy, presumably the Night of a Thousand Tears.
Mm.
And Sabine didn't go. Sabine was on the thaw. And this is interesting where I'm like, did Ahsoka, while they were Master and Apprentice at the time, did Ahsoka say, like, you can't go to Mandalore? Did she forbid Ahsoka from going to Mandalore? That could be also a very key factor into why they separated. Like, you didn't allow me to go to Mandalore, and now Mandalore is destroyed, and now my family is dead. And man. But I also originally thought she didn't go to Mandalore because she kept her promise to Ezra and stayed on the Thaw. So there could be two factors here. She wanted to stay on the Thaw, just didn't go see her family. But now Balin's bringing up that Ahsoka was the one to deny her to go see her family, presumably while they were training as Master and Apprentice. I don't know. I think Balin's not making it up, and I think Sabine didn't deny it. So it's like, what happened there? That's very interesting. So yeah, that kind of, again, keys us into some of the friction that existed between Ahsoka and Sabine prior to the show starting. And again, Balin just like clocking her about Ahsoka, Sabine. You can't trust her. You can't trust him. But also how Balin actually manages to turn Sabine by saying, like, one of the only ways to save Ezra is to give me the map. If you destroy the map, you will never see your friend again. Which, again, he's given her like these no-win scenarios where it's just like ultimatums, exactly. Where it's just like, you have to do it my way or else we'll never see Ezra. Which, again, Balin very rigid. That's what villain talk, right? Villain talk with Kylo in Last Jedi, like, join me. There is no other option. You have to let go. When Rey could do other options and still let go. Again, Balin's just going the whole villain monologue spiel, and it works though. Sabine does hand him the map, and then he reignites the map. The coordinates get finished up top at the hyperdrive, and Morgan's very happy. He says, send a ship down to retrieve Balin. Meanwhile, as the ship comes down, Shin wakes up, instantly starts choking Sabine. I was like, oh, he's awake. Shin's not happy. But of course, as he said, Balin kind of like, hey, no. I made a promise to Sabine that she'll, stay with us. I guess the promise was like she'll see her friend, Ezra. Is that the promise he made?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, yeah, so she don't kill her. I made a promise that she'll live to see her friend, whatever. And now we get Sabine in the ship with Morgan, Shin, and Balin. And man, that's exciting. I really want to get some one-on-one, some two-on-ones between Shin, Balin, and Sabine here. Like, how is that dynamic? How is those interactions going to work on screen? What is that going to look like? Hopefully we get some of that next week, and it's not all just Anakin and Ahsoka. Because that's what really excites me. Like, how is Shin feeling about Sabine being around? They have kind of this early rivalry going on here. What's Balin thinking here now that he has Sabine? Is he just gonna betray her later? Is he just keeping her around? Like, what's gonna happen with that? Balin doesn't seem like the kind of guy to do things with no reason, so I'm very curious there. Yeah, and then of course at the end of the episode, I skipped over, of course, but like the hyperdrive, the ships get taken out by the hyperdrive engine starting because they didn't move out the way like idiots. We talked about it, but then of course Anakin meets up with Ahsoka in the world between worlds.
Beautiful transition of going to like the coastline.
Oh my gosh!
And into the ripples of the world between worlds.
Loved that transition. Really cool transition.
And the plane itself looks so beautiful. Transitioned to live action.
It looks so well done. So well shot. Very much like we saw in Rebels. Like that one straight path and then other paths around them.
A lot more shimmery on the edges as opposed to just like the straight lines that were in the animation.
True. But yeah, the transition was very cool. Anakin again was kind of glossy, but like maybe that could be the effect. Maybe that's because Anakin's purposely from the past.
He's a ghost,
or this is a Force ghost Anakin. I don't know. But then Vader's music is played. What's going on here?
Well, I think we're probably going to tackle a lot of history.
Could this change the way that people see Anakin's Force Ghost Return the Jedi? I'm not sure.
I mean, George already changed it by putting Hayden there.
Exactly though, but like he's good in Return of the Jedi and Force Ghost. I don't know. Like, we never seen a Force Ghost in this realm before. We saw Yoda, but he was alive by that point when he was using that realm with Ezra.
Yeah, it's funny because the ideal by George himself is that the last time he was physically seen when he was good, ignoring the redemption part of Return of the Jedi, is in Revenge of the Sith. But funny enough, he wasn't wearing that clothing in Revenge of the Sith in Return of the Jedi, but
Exactly.
he's wearing his Sith clothing now.
He is now. Which again, I think we'll get some conflicts. Alex from Star Wars Explained theorized that maybe part of her arc is like allowing. Maybe this is Anakin in World Between Worlds, and she has to allow him to go to his past to become who he becomes in Vader,
Oh,
and she has to accept.
oh, don't do that! Don't
It's
do
like,
that to me.
like, hey, Anakin, goodbye, but knowing that his path becomes Vader, and she has to accept that. I don't know.
That'd be a lot.
Because Anakin says like, "Hey, didn't expect to see you so soon," and I'm like,
Yeah,
so soon.
yeah,
It's been years.
which to me tells me that Anakin himself is a Force ghost, and Ahsoka has entered this other plane, which isn't really it's not our plane of existence; it's outside of it. So, because that's what the World Between Worlds is, it's a convergence of the Force ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine he's talking in a sense that she would be quote unquote dead to be here in his
So
eyes,
he thinks she's dead, probably
or at least on the way.
on the way, on the verge.
But her journey's not over. A la
Exactly.
Rocket.
This also reminds me of what happened in. Did you ever finish Legends of Korra?
No, I'm very
No.
far behind.
Spoilers, no spoilers. There's a scene in season 2 where Korra gets thrown into water, very similar to what Ahsoka happens here, where she gets thrown into water, and it's kind of like a rebirth for Korra. This could be a rebirth point for Ahsoka. Water all about always connotated with healing, rebirth, renewal. So maybe this focal point, she has to some kind of conflict. She has to confront some kind of conflict with Anakin, some kind of hurdle with Anakin, both physically, maybe they duel, but also emotionally, where she has to accept Anakin's path to the dark side and then to the light, obviously.
Yeah.
But also dealing with the past and how her departure, his departure affected each other. So yeah, it's it's hard to even theorize because they could do so many different things here. Are we going to hear multiple voices like we heard in World Between Worlds the first time? Are there going to be any voice cameos from other characters that we were not even thinking of right now? Who knows? Are we going to get some new locations? Because last time we saw World Between Worlds, we saw Ezra looking at Kanan, Ezra looking at Vader and Ahsoka. What can Anakin and Ahsoka be looking at? Are they going to be looking at any kind of portals here? Is
The
Anakin
Clone
going
Wars, maybe?
to clone? Oh yeah. I can't remember if those were rumors or actually theories about those Clone Wars armor stuff from years ago now. Whatever. But yeah, so I'm very curious here. Like, is this Anakin maybe going to try and trick Ahsoka? I'm still thinking he might be some kind of evil thing going on.
I don't
know.
I don't think that's the case.
I don't think it's going to be all good. Like, hey, let's go down memory lane.
No, I don't think it's I don't think it's a matter of like we're here for a good time. We're here for a lesson.
Okay.
Come on, come back to me. Come on.
I don't want to say, hey, I want the lesson. Don't get me wrong. There has to be a lesson. Ahsoka has to progress. And like I said, there were some flaws this episode with her idea of personal relationships. Mm-hmm. But her biggest personal relationship is in her face right now in Anakin. Arguably her.
I guess if we listen back to the Anakin TV spot that has new dialogue, we could theorize better.
I'll probably do that too. So yeah, so I'm thinking of course there's going to be a lesson. There's going to be something that she'll learn by the end of this next episode. But at the same time, there's going to be some conflict. Like there was in the last World Between Worlds where Sidious was a major conflict there, but also the interpersonal conflict of Ezra having to believe that Kanan has to die and that he
Mhm.
has to save Ahsoka. But yeah, just to prime people, this is a loop. War Between Worlds is a fixed. It's a magical location, of course, but it's a fixed timeline. Like, there's nothing that Ahsoka can do to change things that have already happened. She can't save Obi-Wan from Vader, or for example.
Yeah.
She can't save Qui-Gon from Maul. She can't pull Luke out of the Death Star 2, right? Things have to happen as they happened up to this point.
And that would probably be like the biggest thing that she faces is the fact that accepting Anakin, becoming Vader.
Yeah. You think we get any references to like, hey, I've been here before. I taught Ezra I helped Ezra with his emotional journey. I can do my own, right? Like,
Maybe. I know from remembering from the spot that they released that Anakin talks about what it means to be a Jedi, with certain aspects to that, and then he has words of encouragement saying like, "I know you can do this, Ahsoka." And I don't know if that's going to be in reflection to like them looking back on a memory or if that's a new lesson now. But we had talked before that like Ahsoka has never been in a position of mentorship, so she's learning as she goes.
exactly.
And what better way to learn how to be the best mentor than from your original mentor?
Your original mentor, perfectly said. And again, I think she's struggling with that fear of losing people. She lost Anakin. She lost Ezra. She lost a lot of people along the way. People know Ahsoka's arc by now.
Yeah.
There's a fear of loss that is just rooted in Ahsoka, and that affects who she is now. And maybe that fear of loss is why she didn't allow Sabine to go to Mandalore. She feared she'd lose Sabine. Maybe that's why she cut off her ties with Sabine early on, because of the fear of just losing her. Maybe that's why she has a distance. That fear of loss is something that she doesn't want to happen ever again. That's why she's so trepidatious with things in general now. Why she's so playing close to as rigid as possible and not on her heart. She's not leaning on her heart because she doesn't want to have the pain. She doesn't want to experience pain, which is it makes sense. Nobody wants to experience pain, but
Yeah.
it comes with being a Jedi, sadly enough. And it's how people recover from that pain. It's how they become the best Jedi. Obi-Wan recovering from Qui-Gon's death to try his best with Anakin. Luke recovering from the pain of Empire Strikes Back to become who he is in Return of the Jedi. Jedi have to experience this pain to progress. And I think Anakin knows that most of all. So that'll be a very important and interesting conversation if they dive into that. Hey, don't be afraid. It's okay to be afraid as a Jedi, but you shouldn't let that fear control you, Ahsoka. So I think that might be a thing they talk about here in the next episode. We'll see. It's playing in theaters. It's going to be big. It's going to be bad. It's going to be wow. Oh, man. I'm excited.
Did you see what was sent in chat of a supposed script page from the episode 5?
No.
Which was joking around of just because it's such a big reveal, it'd be kind of like it was like a Lord of the Rings parody of you have my sword, you have my bow, but it was Bo-Katan, you have my blasters, Mando, you have my jetpack, and then it was and then 360 comedic style around the room, it's fucking just random people popping up, just Carson Teva, you have my X-wing, Cal Kestis, I'm Cal Kestis. Zero great. The Hutt. It was what the fuck?
Yeah.
Kept going around.
Speaking of Cal, actually, he experienced a lot of pain in Jedi Survivor as we played along. And there's a lot of fear of connections there, right? Where that attributed to the main antagonist, no spoilers, but the main antagonist also dealt with that fear of loss and wanting to isolate himself. And Cal having to deal with that guy. But also Cal's fear of losing his crew, right? So it's been an arc for a lot of Jedi survivors of the Purge. So I think that might play a role in both Baylan and Ahsoka's arc moving forward. Fear is a mind killer.
Something to say. Spoilers for Jedi Survivor, but
okay.
Shocked when we were playing and you encountered Vader again in the game, which was a very tricky. We restarted a lot.
It's tough
Um,
battle, man. Tough battle.
but it is funny, like whenever I think back to like the many like brutal moments that Vader has like been depicted to do, whether it's in the games or the comics, and then I'm looking at our our bright-eyed boy Anakin in this episode, and I'm like, what happened to you?
Man, I know, right? That's what makes Star Wars so fucking good. That Anakin to Vader dynamic, it's the most heartbreaking thing ever. Because Anakin's such a great guy. 7 seasons of him being a great guy in 3 movies. And then we see Vader just murdering people left and right in comics, books, video games, movies. It's just a brutal guy. And maybe we see that conflict, that discrepancy next week, and that could lead to a lot of trauma.
God damn it! Imagine if you had a scene, because I just fucking thought about this, and now I want to see it. Imagine Anakin having to swallow his pride, and in terms of focusing on Ahsoka's journey, having to bite the bullet and showcase his darker times as Vader, and being like, "Look at this, please don't go down the path I originally went down to, or you will become a monster."
I can see that happening. Seeing her witness like the things that he's done that she hasn't seen, man.
Which would be like an amazing sense of like basically like eternal like repentance for Anakin of just like, I'm now burdened to, not burdened, but it's my natural call now to repent and guide people away from becoming and committing the same acts that I fell into.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah, I can easily see that happening too. Because again, they're gonna have like these portals, these mirrors. I assume they're not just gonna be walking and strolling along. Like, hey, how you been, buddy? They're gonna be watching. They're gonna be experiencing things together via this lesson. I'm so curious. It's so wide open. And then that's even before we get to like episodes probably 6, 7, and 8 with Thrawn and Ezra coming into play. Man. And again, I've been asking for like what's Ahsoka's arc, and I think it's really going to shine next week.
It's all been seeds been planted, and it's gonna really tee off next episode, and we're gonna get that finisher by the finale.
Totally agree. But yeah, that's it for today's episode. You guys can find me on Twitter at HarrisEV9, talking all things Big Brother. Crazy developments tonight on Big Brother. Big Brother 25 is chaotic. It's messy. It's fun. I'm loving it. Also talking all things anime, manga, Jujutsu Kaisen season 2. Holy shit. It's why I love anime, because it's heartbreaking. It's crazy. It's beautifully animated. I can't wait. Also, the Castlevania Nocturne second trailer dropped today. I watched it like 5,000 times. It is amazing. This is going to be my favorite show of the year. I can't wait. It's going to be epic. So if you're a huge Castlevania fan, get ready. Yeah.
Nice. Follow me at _TimeBlazer, making a show called Time Blazer with co-star and creative consultant Evan Harris.
That's me, Ben.
All right.
Ben. Damn it.
No. Just him screaming on the scaffolding. What a good movie, huh? But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this review, this podcast, make sure to like button, subscribe, and already ring the bell so you miss future coverage of Ahsoka. Can't wait to dive into all the beautiful Anakin stuff that's going to come and more next week. So that being said, hope you have a great day. May the Force be with you always.